class and are voted on by their peers and teachers. We will first hear from Daniel Furman, who will then be followed by Jackson McEwen.
All right, before I do anything, promise kept is trust earned. Happy birthday to Nathan and Natalie. Anyway, good evening, class of 2019. Good evening, faculty and parents. Thank you for the pleasure of being able to speak to you tonight. Although if you had talked to me about this a week ago, I would not use the word pleasure. They said that it might be easier to get going by starting with a joke, but I think it's joke enough that you guys decided to pick a performer with a fear of public speaking to do the graduation speech. So I'll leave it at that. But without further ado, I would like you to imagine something for me. You're in a forest clearing, resting your weary feet as you watch a slight breeze flow through the branches overhead. Behind you lies a mammoth trail, one you've been trekking for some time. Before you lies the trailhead of a path which you've only heard stories about. The path you see is heavily shaded and overgrown, so much so to the point where you can only see a few feet down. It will be tough going, to be sure, especially compared to the path you're leaving behind. The fact that we're all here tells me that we have somewhat capable heads on our shoulders. Some might be screwed on a little tighter than others, but we've gotten here largely intact, which is a feat certainly with commendation. We have all been fighting along that trail for 3 challenging, entertaining, crushing, exhilarating years, and now we're here. For some, you've had the opportunity to be up in the seats cheering on an older sibling who was sitting where we now sit. For others, you're the first. However, especially for those who may be following in older footsteps, that does not make this experience any less important, any less unique. Every single individual sitting here on the arena floor is a trailblazer. We all have our own paths to create, our own marks to make. And the thing is, we aren't saving our abilities for the shaded path ahead. We've all been making our mark and leaving our unique footprint the entire way up the trail we're leaving behind. I have seen incredible drive on the field in a variety of events. I've watched amazing growth from both the audience and backstage. And even just walking through the halls day in and day out, I have witnessed so many different personalities and spirits. At the start, we were taught certain ways of moving forward, but as we progressed, we all developed our own way of pressing onward that exemplifies what makes us individuals. We've all been moving toward the same end goal, and congratulations, we've all made it to the clearing. Capital has its own self-image, one completely unique from the other schools in our district. I have the unique perspective of having almost gone to another school here in the Valley. I had gone to one of its feeder schools and had been working with groups at the high school itself. But 9th grade, I moved into Capital's boundaries. And I've been thankful for that fortuitous event ever since. The school I would have gone to is a little fragmented in hindsight, with lots of cliques and smaller groups instead of a collective body. Here at Capital, however, we have a far more developed sense of unity. I mean, there aren't many schools where a basketball team comes to a band concert to show their support, or where the student council takes many opportunities to recognize people, whether it be on the birthday bulletin board next to the front lobby, or the senior names hanging in the entry hallway from the parking lot. I sadly haven't had the opportunity to get to know all of you as much as I could have, and yet I still get hellos in the hallway from people I only ever see in passing. That kind of natural camaraderie is not something you find at other schools. Another thing that makes Capital better than other schools, in my humble opinion, is that we are far more rounded than other schools are. Even if we're not the best at everything, we still give a good showing in everything we participate in. And we participate in a vast array of things. Things like band, choir, orchestra, basketball, football, soccer, rugby, baseball and softball, track, theater, academic events, science olympiad, all of our culture clubs, debate, youth government, and that only covers some of the things we offer here. Our school's character is incredibly diverse in a myriad of ways, and we as a student body have helped make it. And we're not just diverse in the things offered at Capital. As was said before, we also have the opportunity to host many foreign exchange students from places like Italy, Spain, Germany, Turkey, to name a few. We also have many cultures represented in the rest of our student body as well. All of these people help paint a wonderfully different and colorful picture for Capital. And I personally love the fact that I had the opportunity to meet these people. And for the foreign exchange students, I'm incredibly happy that you all got to come to Capital. And through all of this, we've been given considerable assistance along the way. As we kept plugging along our paths, we all had incredible people walking with us, pointing us in the right direction and giving us helpful tips on how to make our way easier to manage, how to blaze our trail more effectively per se. In fact, they're here with us now, both here on the floor and up in the stands as well. And while I have your mostly undivided attention, I'd like to take a moment to thank you all for the time and effort put into making us get to this point. We've been taught so many useful skills in problem solving, time management, and stress management, albeit learned through gritted teeth in some cases. And all thanks to you not giving up on us and helping us see our true capabilities. I know for me personally, there have been countless times where I've lost some steam and completing assignments and projects became difficult, specifically in my English and history classes. For some reason, textbook work or at-home writes were hard to be motivated towards. And having said that, you can probably guess how getting this speech prepared went. And yet, my teachers managed to keep me chugging along until I was able to get myself rolling on my own again. And for that, I'll be eternally grateful. However, there's something else that needs to be addressed. There's a lesson that some may have learned and also may have largely gone unnoticed. Let's go back to the clearing. When I asked you to imagine it, what did your surroundings look like? Was your clearing empty apart from you? Well, I would like to suggest a small yet very critical alteration. As you look around yourself, instead of seeing an empty clearing, I want you to include the people to your left and right, in front of and behind you, the people over a couple rows, the people on the other side of the group, and everyone in between. The lesson that sometimes is missed is this: we're not blazing this trail alone. As we struggled and pushed ourselves along this path, only a few feet away through the foliage was another person struggling and pushing just as hard as we were. And sometimes trails converge, and you may have shared a stretch with someone else pursuing a similar path. At other times, the foliage in between was far too thick to even start to believe that there was someone else there. Those were the toughest times, I think. The times when the trail narrowed and the forest started creeping in on either side, and it was perceived that we were completely and utterly alone. And for some sitting in this crowd tonight, the forest may have encroached on your personal space for considerable amounts of time. As some may have been going through a relatively calm patch, someone nearby could have been climbing over incredibly rocky terrain. And others still may have been struggling up sheer cliffs, where each foot and handhold could have been the difference between life and death. All of this with only a few feet of foliage limiting our fields of view. This is the greatest lesson to be learned in high school, and sadly, those who need to learn it are often the ones who never get the chance. We are never alone. Let me say this one more time. We are never alone. Every single one of us are loved and appreciated. Even when your path is no more than a deer trail with the forest threatening to close up altogether, there will always be someone only a few paces to your left and right. It's only a matter of reaching out, which is often the hardest part. Sometimes help is on the other side of the ravine. Sometimes help is through the briars. For these instances, I would recommend either a machete or, if you can get your hands on one, a blowtorch. But in all seriousness, reaching out is hard. Often we may not want to be a nuisance or a burden to someone else. Why would they want to help me? It would probably be better just to white knuckle my way through. No. Stop. That's how people get hurt. If pushing onward is honestly too much, if you are struggling, I ask all of you to get out your distress beacon, fire off your flare, especially when we start our way down the trail ahead. We've reached the clearing, but this is merely the rest area between the tutorial level and the real gameplay. Where before we had helpful guides nudging us along, it will be up to us to be our own guides, our own trailblazers. It will be up to us to realize when the going gets too tough for us to do on our own. And I should add to all of this the fact that this is by no means meant to discourage you. As I said before, the fact that we are sitting here at the end of our senior year is a testament to the metal that this class is made of. The path ahead may be intimidating. Trust me, I understand completely. But I can guarantee that each and every one of us is capable of conquering the challenges ahead. We all, for the most part, have an idea of what lies before us. So don't be afraid. Easier said than done, I know. But honestly, look back to what we've done, what you individually have done. There may be trials ahead, but there's already been so much that you have been through. We can do this. You can do this. So as we sit together, looking back on what we've accomplished, both great and small, let us turn our attention to the future. With our friends and family around us, not forgetting the true nature of those getting off, ready to set off as well. Let us all press onward. For here we sit, eyes set with excitement, nervousness, possibly fear, but ultimately determination and willingness. Here we sit at the trailhead. Thank you.